It's Yoko's birthday, it's Yoko's birthday, and we would like to wish her all the very best. Hello everyone and welcome back to Beatly Tones Beatles channel. Lovely to have you here. Thanks for joining me for this video and I hope you're all doing well. Now yes, today is Saturday the 18th of February 2023 and Yoko Ono is an incredible 90 years old today. Yoko born in 1933, the same year as my mum. My mum would also be 90 this year if she was still around. And I wanted to make a really positive video about Yoko for her birthday. But sometimes when you talk about something in a positive way, you kind of have to talk about the negative side as well to put that positivity into perspective. And Yoko has put up with an incredible amount of shit, amount of abuse, an amount of bullying from the British media, from first generation Beatles fans back in the time, right from the word go, right from the time when she first appeared on the scene as part of John's life. The British media, they abused her and bullied her in a way that they never spoke about anyone before. They called her ugly, they called her a witch. They used racist terms to describe her. They would probably talk about someone like Adolf Hitler with more positivity than they would speak about Yoko Ono, and that is just not acceptable. And she was blamed for everything. She was blamed for breaking up the Beatles. She was blamed for getting John addicted to heroin, like he didn't have a mind of his own, like he wasn't a strong character in himself. They didn't like the fact that a foreign lady, a strong female had walked away with a Beatle, and they just lied and lied and lied about her, and eventually lies stick, and you get idiots like Albert Goldman and the drivel that he wrote in his book, and people accept that as being the truth when it clearly isn't. People have abused Yoko as a form of protecting John, but what I've always said right from the word go, when I first sort of got to know about how Yoko was treated back in the 60s. Thing that I always said is if you don't get Yoko, then you don't understand John. You don't get Yoko, you don't get John. If you don't understand why he loved her so much, why he was attracted to her, then you don't understand anything about John Lennon. And the thing about the abuse and the bullying that Yoko got back in the day hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. The British media are still abusing strong women in that same way. I see it on a daily basis, and the Yoko Ono of 2023 is Meghan Markle, and every day we see abuse and bullying of Meghan, another strong woman, another non-British woman that has walked away with a pillion of British society, and they can't cope with it, and it is absolutely disgusting. But I do want to talk about Yoko. I don't want to talk about Meghan, but I do see similarities between the way that Yoko was treated to the way that Meghan is being treated today. But I do want to make a positive video about Yoko and talk about the great things that she has done, because as Beatles fans, we have got a lot to be grateful to Yoko for, and I'm not going to list them all, but I'm going to talk about a few of them. And we can go back. I can remember a few months after John was killed, in the early months of 1981, Yoko came out and she said that she is going to make it her mission to keep John's music alive and keep John's name alive as well. And boy, has she delivered on that promise. She has delivered on that promise with Knobs On. We can go back to sort of 1984 when we got Milk and Honey. Now, back in 1984, it wasn't the done thing for pop stars to release unfinished music, if you'll pardon the pun, unfinished music or demos or outtakes of their music. They didn't let us hear that sort of stuff. Their egos were too high up in the clouds to let us hear things that weren't going quite right. But she gave us Milk and Honey back in 1984, followed that up with things like Men Love Avenue, and letting us have the concert, the one-to-one concert live in New York City, stuff like that. She gave the other three Beatles the permission to use John's demos of Real Love, Free as a Bird, and a few others to create new Beatles recordings for the anthology project, something that we never thought we would ever see. For Beatles on a new recording again, just incredible stuff. She gave us the absolutely incredible Lennon anthology, 4 CDs cram-packed with outtakes of John's solo career, outtakes and demos and live recordings. Just absolutely fantastic stuff. She gave us the Strawberry Fields Memorial in Central Park. She completely funded that, and she still funds the maintenance of that today. She gave us a place for fans to gather and to remember John in Central Park. And if you ever go there on the anniversary of John's death and look up at the Dakota building, which overlooks it, you'll see a candle. Yoko always lights a candle, puts it in the window of the Dakota building so you can kind of see it from the Strawberry Fields Memorial. She gave us the Imagine Peace Tower in Iceland, and countless other sculptures and stuff that she's done in various places across the world. She opened a John Lennon museum in Japan, which is now sadly closed. But she has done absolute utmost to keep John's music and John's name alive, and we should be absolutely, really grateful to that. Now, I also want to talk about her as a conceptual artist as well. I hate the word avant-garde. It always sounds a little bit wanky to me, but as a conceptual artist, an incredible brain for this sort of thing. This was the sort of the first kind of meeting of minds between John and Yoko, and her art has got a lot of humour in it, and not everybody gets it, but John got it. And I also want to talk about her as a musician or as a songwriter, because I'm not whitewashing over this at all. I think it's pretty fair to say that if Yoko hadn't been married to John Lennon, then she probably would never have got the opportunity to make the records that she has. He was fully supportive of her, and I wanted to talk about some of her records very briefly, because people maybe have not bothered to seek them out and listen to them. They kind of associate Yoko with the screaming and the shouting and stuff like that, and of course that stuff exists and it is pretty much unlistenable. I'm not a Yoko obsessive. I don't own all her albums, but I do own some of her albums, and I kind of started buying Yoko albums because they had John on them. So the first couple that I got was Feeling the Space, an album, it's full of great songs, and her lyrics are very, very powerful, very imaginative, and very much like John's were, and also angry and witty in places, and they are worth seeking out. She is a great lyricist. I do get it. I get it that her voice is not everyone's cup of tea, and she is a bit of an acquired taste from that point of view. But we've seen how she has influenced, people like Susie Sue and, Lena Lovitch, the B-52s, John, when these artists happened in the sort of the late 70s, John was like, this is amazing. They're doing stuff that Yoko was doing, 5 or 6 years before, was now being kind of copied or was influencing the current sort of, new wave music scene. There's this album here, approximately Infinite Universe, a fantastic album that she made with Elephant's Memory, a really, really good, strong album with good pop songs. One thing about Yoko's albums is that she uses crack musicians on her albums, and they sound really good. Walking on Thin Ice, probably her greatest song, the song that they were working on the night that John was killed, and John thought this was going to be a #1 single. It wasn't a #1 single, but it was a #1 single in the dance charts, and a lot of her subsequent stuff, she does a lot of dance music these days, and she's a very successful maker of dance records. This album, Season of Glass, that came out just after, about 6 months after John was killed, must have been an incredibly hard album to make. A lot of these songs were recorded during the Double Fantasy sessions, some of them later after he was killed, and the ones that she talks about that day in this record, it must have been an incredibly hard record to make. The follow-up to that, It's All Right, is a kind of a much more positive album, but it's kind of an album of two sides. On the back here we see John's sort of ghostly figure watching over Yoko and Sean in Central Park, and sort of side one of this album is as kind of a bunch of sort of sad songs. Side two is a much more positive. It's Yoko sort of coming out the other side, and is a really good pop album. This one here, you'll remember Ronald Reagan's sort of Star Wars program. Well, this one, Yoko came out with Star Peace as a kind of antidote to it. And she toured that album, and I went to see her. She played a gig at the Wembley Conference Centre, which is a small venue in London, holds about 2,000 people. It wasn't full, and but I wanted to go. I couldn't get anyone to go with me, but so I went to the gig on my own. Funny enough, Mark McGann, you might remember Mark McGann, who is a perennial player of John Lennon. He's an actor. He played John Lennon in the play Lennon, which I first saw at the Everyman Theatre in Liverpool in 1981, but it also came to the West End, and I saw it again, and I think it went to Broadway as well. But he also played John in the film John and Yoko, A Love Story, and he was at that Yoko gig. I had a quick word with him. He signed my program. He was there with the actress who plays Yoko in the film, who was his fiancée at the time, but I can't remember her name. But at the end of the gig, I found myself queuing up at the stage door to meet Yoko, which is something that I'd never really done before, but I kind of felt like I wanted to speak to Yoko, and somehow, by meeting Yoko, I was making some sort of connection to John. When I actually got to speak to her, I kind of, it wasn't an outstanding conversation, to be honest. I was much younger then, and to be honest, I was quite in awe of her. But, I did say, things like a great show, Yoko, and lovely to meet you. And she shook my hand and said, lovely to meet you too, and thank you. And, while I was in the queue, I was kind of listening to her talk to other fans, who were ahead of me in the queue, and she was, absolutely lovely, really, really nice, really friendly to all the fans. And I don't really have bad things to say about Yoko. She's someone that I really admire as a very strong, intelligent woman, and her intelligence is also something that attracted John to her. John, obviously, also a very intelligent person. And, the whole the whole peace movement, I believe, was, Yoko's idea. John never really spoke about peace before he met Yoko, and I think it was her idea and her concept for them to use their fame to promote peace, and that's something that she's never stopped doing. She's never stopped being a spokesperson for for world peace and stuff like that. And so what is wrong? What is wrong with that? She has also inspired some of John's most fantastic love songs, and there's that aspect to her as well. Now, so I just wanted to do this little tribute to Yoko for her birthday. I hope you'll join me in wishing Yoko a happy birthday down in the comments below. Now, if by the most minuscule chance that Yoko is watching this video, happy birthday, Yoko. Thank you for watching this video, everyone, and I will see you all very soon. Bye-bye.